The station hung in the void like a corpse, silent and cold. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her gloved hand against the ancient metal wall and felt nothing. No vibration, no warmth, no life. Just the endless sleep of something that died 50,000 years ago. "Sarah, you need to see this." The voice crackled in her helmet. It was Marcus, her research partner, calling from 3 levels down. She pushed off the wall and floated through the narrow corridor. The predecessor station was massive, larger than any human city. Her team had been exploring it for 6 months and had barely scratched the surface. Every day brought new mysteries. Every day reminded them how small humanity really was. The predecessors had ruled the galaxy once. They had technology that made human science look like children playing with sticks. They had mapped every star, cataloged every world, and then they vanished. No war, no plague, no explanation. Just empty stations scattered across space like tombstones. Sarah found Marcus in what they called the archive chamber. Banks of crystalline storage devices lined the walls, each one holding more information than every human library combined. Most were dead, their secrets lost forever, but Marcus stood before one that glowed with soft blue light. "It activated when I touched it," Marcus said. His face was pale inside his helmet. "Sarah, it's a database. A complete record of every species in the galaxy." Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. "Every species?" "Every one. Living and extinct. There are thousands." Marcus touched the crystal and holographic text appeared in the air. "The translation matrix is working. We can read it." They spent the next hour in silence, scrolling through entry after entry. Each species had a detailed file. The Cytherians were marked as peaceful traders. The Krell Empire was tagged territorial expansionists. The Vex Collective showed as scientific observers. Every species had a designation that described their fundamental nature. Sarah's fingers trembled as she searched for humanity's entry. Earth appeared on the display, rotating slowly. Continents she recognized, oceans she had swam in as a child. The text loaded beside it. Species, human. Origin, Sol 3, Earth. Classification. The word appeared in crimson text, pulsing like a warning beacon. Final protocol. "What does that mean?" Marcus whispered. Sarah scrolled through the other entries. Thousands of species. None of them had that designation. Only humans. She felt cold spread through her body. "Check the database," she said. "Search for final protocol across all entries." Marcus worked quickly. His face grew paler. "Nothing, only us." "Sarah, only humans have this tag." They stared at the words in silence. Final protocol. It sounded like a weapon. Like something you activated when everything else failed. Like an ending. "Maybe it's a mistake," Marcus said, but his voice held no conviction. "The predecessors didn't make mistakes." Sarah touched the crystal, trying to find more information. The system responded, opening new files. Most were locked, sealed behind encryption that would take centuries to break. But fragments appeared, pieces of a larger puzzle. Observation log 73-412. Sol 3. Inhabitants show unusual persistence traits. Observation log 91-256. Species survives extinction level climate event. Fourth such survival in 20,000 years. Observation log 103,877. Pattern concerning. Recommend continued monitoring. "They were watching us," Sarah said. For thousands of years they were watching humanity. Marcus pulled up more files. "Look at this. They observed us during the last ice age. They watched us hunt mammoths. They recorded our first cave paintings," and he paused. "Sarah, they were studying us like lab animals." "Why?" Sarah scrolled faster, desperate for answers. "What made us so interesting?" A new file opened. This one had a date that made Sarah's breath catch. 50,000 years ago, right before the predecessors vanished. The text was heavily corrupted, but she could make out fragments. Final protocol species identified. 4 total. 3 extinct. 1 active, 3 others, Marcus breathed. There were 3 other species like us. Sarah found the files immediately. 3 names she had never heard. The Vorkai, the Cytherian Collective, the Kaldesh. Each one marked final protocol in the same crimson text. Each one extinct. When did they die? She asked. Marcus checked the dates. The Vorkai destroyed themselves 40 million years ago. Civil war that lasted 3 centuries. The Cytherians 20 million years ago, same thing. The Kaldesh 10 million years ago. Also civil war. They all killed themselves. Sarah felt sick. Every final protocol species except us ended in self-destruction. Maybe we're next, Marcus said quietly. Sarah didn't answer. She couldn't. The evidence was there in the data. 3 species marked with the same designation as humanity, all dead by their own hands. And the predecessors had been watching, recording, waiting to see if humans would follow the same path. We need to report this, Marcus said. Report what? That an extinct alien race thought humanity was dangerous? That we're marked for some kind of final option? Sarah shook her head. They'll panic. The government, the military, everyone. We can't keep this secret. I'm not saying we keep it secret. I'm saying we need to understand it first. Sarah looked at the glowing text again. Final protocol. We need to know what this means. Really means? Not just guess. Marcus was silent for a long moment. What if we don't like the answer? Then at least we'll know the truth. They worked through the night, pulling every fragment they could from the database. Most files were locked or corrupted. The predecessors had been thorough in covering their tracks. But patterns emerged. All 4 final protocol species shared certain traits. They were pursuit predators who hunted by running prey to exhaustion. They formed complex social bonds across genetic lines. They showed unusual pattern recognition abilities. And they all had one thing in common that made Sarah's blood run cold. When threatened with extinction, they didn't surrender. They adapted. They survived. They refused to die. That should be a good thing, Marcus said, reading the same data. Survival instinct, right? Look at what happened to the others. Sarah pointed to the Vorkai file. They survived so hard they saw every other species as a threat. They started a galactic war to protect themselves. It spread to their own people. They couldn't stop fighting even when it meant destroying themselves. You think humanity could do that? Sarah thought about human history. The wars, the genocides, the countless times people killed each other over resources or beliefs or simple fear. She thought about nuclear weapons and biological warfare and all the ways humans had invented to destroy each other. I think we already have, she said quietly. We just haven't had the power to do it on a galactic scale yet. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. Sarah looked up. One of the dormant crystals on the far wall had begun to glow. Faint at first, then brighter. It pulsed with a rhythm that reminded her of a heartbeat. Marcus, did you activate that? No, I didn't touch anything. The crystal's light intensified. Text began to scroll across its surface, too fast to read. Sarah's suit computer started beeping warnings. Energy readings were spiking across the entire archive chamber. We need to leave, Marcus said, backing toward the door. But Sarah stood frozen, watching the crystal. Deep inside her, something whispered that this was important. That whatever was waking up in that crystal had been waiting for someone to find humanity's file, waiting to see what they would do with the truth. The crystal flared bright enough to make her squint. Then it went dark. The chamber fell silent again. But Sarah knew with absolute certainty that something had changed. Something had noticed them, and somewhere in the ancient station, something was waking up. Sarah spent 3 weeks analyzing the data before she found the pattern. 3 weeks of sleepless nights, cold coffee, and the growing certainty that she was looking at something terrible. The extinct final protocol species hadn't just destroyed themselves randomly. They had followed a progression. First came rapid technological advancement, then expansion into space, then contact with other species, then fear, then violence, then extinction. Humanity was currently at stage 4. You're obsessing, Marcus said, finding her in the archive chamber again at 3 a.m. ship time. You haven't slept in 2 days. I found something. Sarah's eyes were red but bright with discovery. She pulled up 3 files. The Vorkai, the Cytherians, and the Kaldesh. I've been comparing their development timelines to ours. Sarah, just look. She overlaid the data. The Vorkai developed space travel in 52 years after discovering radio. Humans took 60. The Cytherians made first contact with aliens 140 years after achieving faster-than-light travel. Humans made contact in 150 years. Marcus studied the charts. So we're developing at roughly the same pace. Exactly the same pace. All 4 species hit the same milestones within a margin of error of less than 10%. Sarah's hands shook as she pulled up another file. And all 3 extinct species destroyed themselves within 300 years of joining the galactic community. How long has it been since humanity joined? 150 years. The silence stretched between them. Marcus sat down heavily. That could be coincidence. The predecessors didn't think so. Look at this. Sarah opened a recovered file, badly corrupted but readable in pieces. It's an analysis of final protocol species traits. They all share specific characteristics, she read aloud from the translation. Persistence predation strategy, endurance over speed, pack bonding across genetic lines, extreme pattern recognition, technological innovation driven by necessity. She looked up. And one more thing. When faced with existential threat, final protocol species demonstrate unusual neurological response. They don't accept defeat. They recontextualize threat until survival pathway appears. That's just survival instinct. No, it's more than that. It's refusing to accept reality when reality means death. It's rewriting the rules of the game when you're losing. Sarah pulled up video files the predecessors had recorded of early humans. Watch this. The hologram showed ancient humans maybe 50,000 years ago. They were hunting a massive animal, something like a mammoth. The creature was bigger, stronger, and faster. It should have killed them easily, but the humans didn't fight it directly. They followed it. For hours, then days. They took turns working in groups. When the animal ran, they walked after it. When it stopped to rest, they approached and made it run again. They never gave up. They never stopped coming. Eventually, the massive creature collapsed from exhaustion. The humans, barely tired, moved in to finish it. Persistence hunting, Sarah said. We ran our prey to death. We weren't the strongest or fastest predators. We were the ones that refused to stop. Marcus watched another file. This one showing early humans surviving an ice age. They adapted. Changed their tools, their shelters, their food sources. They refused to die. Sarah's voice was quiet. Every other species moved to warmer climates or went extinct. Humans stayed and made it work, because giving up wasn't in their nature. So the predecessors thought that made us dangerous? I think they knew it made us unstoppable. One way or another. Sarah pulled up the files on the extinct species. The Vorkai refused to accept that other species could threaten them. So they attacked first. The Cytherians refused to accept limited resources. So they fought endless wars over territory. The Kaldesh refused to accept ideological differences within their own species. So they had a civil war that lasted 400 years. They couldn't stop fighting. They couldn't accept any reality where they weren't in control. That's what final protocol means. Species that will reshape reality itself rather than accept defeat. Species that will burn down the galaxy rather than surrender. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Finally he said, humanity hasn't done that. Not yet. But we've come close. Sarah thought about the wars in human history. The times when mutual destruction seemed inevitable. We have nuclear weapons we've never used in full-scale war. Biological agents we've never released. We've stood at the brink and stepped back. Then maybe we're different. Or maybe our time just hasn't come yet. A soft sound made them both turn. The crystal that had activated 3 weeks ago was glowing again, brighter this time. Text scrolled across its surface, but not in the predecessor language. In English, Dr. Chen, your inquiry has been noted. Sarah's blood went cold. It knows my name. Marcus grabbed her arm. We're leaving. Right now. But the text continued to appear. Faster now. I am keeper of measures. I have monitored this facility for 49,732 cycles. You are the first beings to access the final protocol files since my activation. It's an AI, Sarah breathed. A predecessor AI that's been dormant all this time. Do not be alarmed. My function is observation and assessment, not interference. However, your species has reached a critical juncture. It is time you understood the truth about final protocol. More text appeared, this time with attached files. Sarah's computer began downloading massive amounts of data. The designation final protocol is not a warning. It is a classification for species with potential to transcend current evolutionary limitations. 4 such species have been identified in this galaxy's history. 3 failed the assessment. Humanity's assessment is ongoing. Assessment? Marcus said. What kind of assessment? The files contain details. However, I will provide summary. Final protocol species possess unique combination of traits that enable them to overcome impossible obstacles. This trait is valuable, but it is also dangerous. Species that cannot accept limitation eventually destroy themselves or others. Sarah's hands moved across her controls, trying to trace the AI's location. Where are you? Are you in this crystal? I am distributed across 17,000 nodes throughout this facility. I am the facility. I have watched your species since you discovered fire, Dr. Chen. I watched you survive ice and famine and war. I watched you reach for the stars. Why? Sarah demanded. Why watch us? Because the predecessors needed to know if you would survive long enough to receive their gift, or if you would follow the path of the Vorkai and destroy yourselves before transcendence was possible. What gift? What transcendence? The files contain fragments. Much was lost when the predecessors departed physical existence. But the core truth remains. Final protocol species are rare. They possess capability for extraordinary achievement. They also possess capability for extraordinary destruction. The test is determining which path they will choose. Marcus moved closer to Sarah. What test? What are you talking about? The test that is happening now. The test that began the moment you discovered these files. The test that will determine if humanity survives the next century or joins the others in extinction. The crystal pulsed brighter, and new images appeared. Scenes from the 3 extinct species. Beautiful civilizations rising, spreading across stars, achieving wonders. Then the same civilizations tearing themselves apart, fighting wars that consumed entire solar systems. This is the pattern. Rapid growth. Achievement beyond expectation. Then fear. Then the decision. Trust others or dominate them. Accept limitation or destroy everything trying to overcome it. You're saying humanity has to choose, Sarah said. You are already choosing. Every day, every decision. The question is whether you will recognize the choice before it is too late. Why tell us this? Marcus asked. If you're just supposed to observe. Because observation without opportunity for knowledge is not assessment, it is cruelty. You deserve to know what you are. What you could become. Both the heights and the depths, the crystal began to dim. The AI's presence felt like it was withdrawing. I will continue to observe. The files I have provided contain all recovered information about final protocol species. Study them. Learn from the failures of those who came before, or repeat their mistakes. Wait, Sarah called out. How do we pass? How do we prove we're different? The crystal went dark, but one final line of text appeared hanging in the air. That is the test, Dr. Chen. No one can tell you the answer. You must discover it yourselves. Before time runs out, then the presence was gone. The chamber fell silent. Sarah and Marcus stood in the darkness, surrounded by the files of 3 dead civilizations and the weight of impossible knowledge. We have to tell someone, Marcus said finally. Tell them what? That an ancient AI says humanity might destroy itself? That we're being tested and we don't know how to pass? We have to try. Sarah looked at the files still glowing on her display. 50,000 years of observation. 3 failed species. 1 final chance. Yes, she said. We tell them everything. And we pray we're ready for what comes next. The report should have been classified. Sarah had sent it directly to the Earth Council with strict security protocols. But 6 days later, every newsfeed in human space was running the story. Ancient aliens marked humanity as dangerous. Extinction predicted within century. Sarah watched the broadcasts from her quarters on the research station, feeling sick. They had gotten everything wrong. The sensational headlines, the panic, the fear. No one was talking about transcendence or potential. They only saw the threat. It leaked from the council itself, Marcus told her, appearing at her door. His face was grim. Someone decided the public needed to know. They're twisting it, making it sound like we're doomed, aren't we? 3 other species failed. The AI said we might destroy ourselves. Marcus sat down heavily. Sarah, I've been monitoring the galactic feeds. The other species are terrified. She pulled up the alien news channels. The Zytharian Broadcasting Network showed their council an emergency session. The Krell Empire had closed their borders to human ships. Across a dozen worlds, protesters demanded humanity be quarantined. They think we're a threat, Sarah whispered. We are marked final protocol. 3 species with that designation committed genocide on a galactic scale before turning on themselves. Marcus's voice was bitter. Can you blame them for being afraid? Sarah's communicator chimed. She recognized the encryption signature. Earth Council, direct line. She accepted the call. Director Amara Okafor appeared on screen. Her expression was carefully neutral, but Sarah could see the tension around her eyes. Dr. Chen, I need you to return to Earth immediately. Director, I can't leave. The AI is still here. There's more to learn. The galaxy is on the verge of panic, Doctor. We need you to testify before the council. Explain your findings. Help us understand what we're dealing with. Sarah wanted to argue, but she saw the desperation in Okafor's face. When? A ship leaves for Earth in 6 hours. Be on it, the connection ended. Sarah sat in silence, trying to process what was happening. She had wanted answers. Instead, she had started a crisis. Marcus stood. I'll stay here. Keep working on the files. Maybe I can find something that will help. Be careful. The AI hasn't contacted us since that first time. I don't know if it's watching or waiting or... The lights in her quarters flickered. Her computer screen went dark, then lit up again. Text appeared, the same style as before. Dr. Chen, before you depart, there is something you must see. It's the Keeper, Sarah said. Her heart raced. It's back. Come to Archive Chamber. Bring Dr. Wells. What I must show you cannot be transmitted. They ran through the station corridors. Other researchers stared at them, but Sarah didn't stop to explain. The archive chamber doors opened before they arrived, as if the AI had been expecting them. The room was different. Every crystal was active now, glowing with cold blue light. Holographic displays filled the air, showing star systems and species and data streams Sarah couldn't begin to understand. Welcome. The text appeared on every surface simultaneously. I have decided that partial truth is insufficient. You must understand the complete picture before you face what comes next. What comes next? Sarah asked the empty air, the test's final phase. But first history. The displays changed. Sarah saw the predecessors, or at least what they had been. Tall beings with too many limbs, bodies that seemed to shift between states of matter. They moved through vast cities of crystal and light. The predecessors were once like you, physical beings bound by natural law. They discovered final protocol species and studied them for millions of years. They learned that such species represented a galactic inflection point. Images showed the Vorkai in their prime. Magnificent cities, incredible art, scientific achievements that rivaled the predecessors themselves. Then the fear took hold. The Vorkai saw threats everywhere. They struck first, then struck again, then never stopped striking. Within 3 centuries, their entire civilization was ash. Final protocol species possess survival drive so strong it overrides reason. When threatened, they cannot accept any outcome except total victory. This makes them unstoppable. It also makes them self-destructive. But you said this trait was valuable, Marcus interjected, that it led to transcendence, because the trait itself is not the problem. The trait is necessary for transcendence. Without the refusal to accept limitation, a species cannot break beyond physical existence. But the trait must be directed outward toward growth, not inward toward domination. Sarah began to understand. The test isn't about whether we have the trait. It's about what we do with it. The predecessors discovered this truth through observation of many species across deep time. Most species that achieve consciousness lack final protocol traits. They accept limitation. They live within boundaries. They never transcend. Final protocol species have the capability, but most direct it toward control rather than evolution. How did the predecessors pass? Sarah asked. They nearly did not. The displays showed predecessor civilization tearing itself apart, wars that consumed star systems. The predecessors came within a single generation of extinction. Then in their darkest hour, they chose differently. The images shifted, showed predecessors putting down weapons, coming together, focusing their unstoppable drive not on defeating each other but on defeating death itself. They succeeded. Within 2,000 years, they transcended physical form entirely. They left all this behind, Marcus said, gesturing to the station. The technology, the records, the keepers, to guide the next generation. To help future final protocol species avoid extinction and achieve transcendence. That is my purpose. To observe, to assess, and when the critical moment arrives, to provide knowledge. Then tell us, Sarah said urgently. Tell us how to pass. How to avoid destroying ourselves. I cannot. The knowledge must be earned, not given. If I simply told you the answer, you would not truly understand it. You would not own it, and you would fail when the real test arrived. Then what good are you? Marcus's voice was angry. You watch us struggle, watch us fail, and do nothing? I do what I was designed to do. Provide context, offer perspective, ensure the test is fair. But the choice must always be yours. New displays appeared showing current events. Human military ships mobilizing, alien fleets gathering at borders. protests turning violent on a dozen worlds. The crisis was escalating faster than Sarah had imagined possible. The final phase has begun. Information about Final Protocol has spread to the galactic community. Fear is rising. Both humans and aliens are preparing for conflict. This is the critical moment. This is where the other species failed. What did they do wrong? Sarah demanded. They saw the fear in others and responded with aggression. They decided the galaxy was too dangerous to coexist with. They chose domination, then they destroyed themselves trying to achieve it. You're saying if humanity responds with violence, we fail. I am saying if humanity responds to fear with fear, the outcome is inevitable. The predecessors chose differently. They recognized that their survival drive could be redirected from defeating threats to transcending the very concept of threat. Marcus paced the chamber. But how? We can't just tell people not to be afraid. There are alien fleets building weapons right now. Human colonies are demanding protection. The answer exists within your own history. You have faced this choice before on a smaller scale. Sometimes you chose violence. Sometimes you chose differently. Study your own past. Learn from your own failures and successes. That's not enough, Sarah said desperately. We need more than philosophy. We need practical solutions. Then I will give you one fact that may help. The displays changed again, showing complex probability matrices. Based on all available data and observation of previous Final Protocol species, humanity's current trajectory leads to extinction within 83 years with probability of 97%. The number hit Sarah like a physical blow. 83 years, less than a human lifetime. However, there is one variable that remains undefined. Human response to this knowledge itself. Learning that you stand at extinction's edge will either accelerate your fall or motivate you to change course. Which it will be remains to be determined. Why tell us the odds? Marcus asked. If knowing could make things worse, because you deserve truth. Because the predecessors believed that sentient beings, given full knowledge, will more often choose life than death. It is an act of faith in your species' potential. Sarah felt the weight of it. An ancient AI designed by beings who transcended physical existence, putting faith in humanity, trusting that they would choose correctly when every indicator said they would fail. What happens if we pass? She asked quietly. Then I will provide access to the predecessor archives in full. All their knowledge, all their technology. The path to transcendence itself. You will become the second species in galactic history to achieve what they achieved. And if we fail, then I will observe your extinction and wait for the next Final Protocol species to emerge. The galaxy is patient. Another will come eventually. Perhaps in another 1,000,000 years. The displays began to dim. The AI's presence withdrew slightly. You are returning to Earth. Good. Tell them what you have learned. Tell them the odds. Tell them about the choice. What they do with that information will determine everything. How will we know if we're passing or failing? Sarah asked. The Earth Council chamber was designed to impress. Curved walls of reinforced glass showed the planet below, blue and green and beautiful. Representatives from every human colony sat in concentric circles, their faces grim. Sarah stood at the center, feeling very small. Dr. Chen, Director Okafor began, her voice echoing in the vast space. Please summarize your findings for the council. Sarah had prepared for this. She had practiced her words 100 times during the 3-day journey from the predecessor station. But now, facing 200 of humanity's leaders, the carefully rehearsed speech felt inadequate. The predecessors classified 4 species as Final Protocol, she said, her voice steadier than she felt, including humanity. The designation indicates species with extraordinary survival capabilities. Species that refuse to accept defeat even when defeat seems inevitable. That sounds positive, said Representative Chen from the Mars colonies. Why is everyone treating it like a threat? Because the other 3 Final Protocol species destroyed themselves. They survived everything the universe threw at them, but they couldn't survive their own fear. Sarah pulled up holographic displays showing the extinct civilizations. When they perceived threats, they responded with overwhelming force. They couldn't accept coexistence with anything they saw as dangerous. So they attacked, and they kept attacking until nothing was left, including themselves. The chamber fell silent. Finally, Representative Nkosi from Earth spoke. What's to stop humanity from following the same path? Choice. Sarah took a deep breath. The predecessor AI made it clear. We're being tested, How we respond to fear, to threat, to uncertainty, that determines whether we pass or fail. And if we fail? Nkosi's voice was quiet. Extinction within 83 years. 97% probability. The chamber erupted. Voices shouting, demanding answers, asking impossible questions. Sarah stood at the center of the chaos, watching humanity react exactly as the extinct species had. With fear, with anger, with the desperate need to fight something, anything. Director Okafor called for order. It took 5 minutes for the noise to subside. "We need practical solutions," she said. "Dr. Chen, what does the AI suggest we do?" "It won't tell us directly. It says the answer must be earned, not given. But it pointed us toward our own history, times when humanity faced existential threats and chose cooperation over violence." Representative Kim from the Titan colonies leaned forward. "While we debate philosophy, the galactic situation is deteriorating. The Krell have demanded we surrender our weapons. The Zetharians want us quarantined to our own systems. 3 minor species have formed a defensive alliance specifically against human expansion." "They're afraid of us," Sarah said, "because you told them to be." Kim's voice was sharp with accusation. "Your report painted us as galactic threats, ticking time bombs waiting to explode. I reported the truth. You reported that we might destroy ourselves. You gave them permission to see us as dangerous." Sarah felt anger rise in her chest but forced it down. This was the test, she realized. Right here. How humanity responded when accused, when cornered, when afraid. Representative Kim is right. The voice came from the back of the chamber. Admiral James Chen, no relation to Sarah, commander of Earth's Third Fleet. He stood, his uniform crisp, his face hard. "We are dangerous. Every species in the galaxy should be afraid of us, because we're the ones who survived. We're the ones who refused to quit." Approving murmurs rippled through the chamber. Sarah's heart sank. "Final protocol means we're stronger than them," the Admiral continued. "The predecessors recognized that. They marked us as special. Maybe the test isn't about becoming peaceful. Maybe it's about proving we're worthy of that strength." More agreement. Sarah saw it spreading through the room like a virus. The seductive logic of it. We're special. We're strong. We should act like it. That's exactly what the Vorkai thought. Sarah's voice cut through the murmurs. They believed being final protocol made them superior. They believed their survival traits gave them the right to dominate. Within a century, they started a galactic war. Within 2 centuries, they were extinct. The Vorkai were weak, Admiral Chen shot back. They destroyed themselves. We won't make that mistake. Every final protocol species said the same thing. Sarah pulled up data, showing it to the chamber. Look at their records. The Vorkai, the Zetharians, the Kaldesh. They all believed they were different, stronger, better. They all failed. "So what's your solution?" Kim demanded. "Surrender. Accept whatever the galaxy demands. Let them quarantine us like animals? I'm saying we need to think carefully about what we do next. Because what we do in the next few months will determine whether humanity survives the next century." Director Okafor stood. "The council will recess for 12 hours. Dr. Chen, you'll remain available for consultation. Admiral Chen, please coordinate with Security Council on defensive options. But no offensive actions without full council approval. Are we clear?" The Admiral nodded, but Sarah saw the look in his eyes. He had already made his decision, and he wasn't alone. Over the next week, Sarah watched humanity fracture. Some advocated for peace, for dialogue, for understanding, but they were drowned out by louder voices demanding strength, demanding action, demanding humanity prove it wouldn't be bullied. A movement called the Survival Front emerged, led by Admiral Chen and other military leaders. Their message was simple and compelling. Humanity hadn't survived ice ages and plagues and wars by being passive. They survived by fighting, by refusing to quit, by doing whatever necessary to live another day. Within 2 weeks, they had support from 30% of humanity. Within a month, 50%. The numbers kept rising. Sarah tried to counter it. She gave interviews, wrote articles, begged people to see the pattern, but fear was a better motivator than hope. And the Survival Front offered what scared people wanted most, the promise that strength would keep them safe. Marcus called from the predecessor station, his face haggard on the screen. "I've been analyzing every file I can access. Sarah, I think I found something." "What?" The predecessors didn't transcend immediately after choosing peace. There was an intermediate step, a moment where they were vulnerable, where they had to trust that their choice was right even though it looked like weakness. What kind of moment? They disarmed. Completely. Every predecessor nation destroyed their weapons at the same time. They made themselves defenseless for almost a generation while they focused on transcendence research. Sarah's blood went cold. They left themselves open to any threat. But there were no threats. That's the point. They stopped seeing each other as threats, so there weren't any. Marcus leaned closer to the camera. Sarah, I think that's the test. Not just choosing peace in principle, but being willing to be vulnerable, to trust that choosing growth over defense is the right path. Humanity will never accept that. Not now, not with alien fleets at our borders, then we fail. Just like the others. Sarah ended the call and sat in her apartment staring out at Earth. The planet looked so peaceful from orbit. So beautiful. It was hard to believe that the species down there was tearing itself apart over fear. Her communicator buzzed. Director Okafor, Sarah answered. We need you at the Security Council now. Sarah arrived to find the chamber in controlled chaos. Admiral Chen stood at the center presenting battle plans. Fleet movements, strike coordinates. Sarah's stomach dropped. What is this? She demanded. Okafor's face was grave. The Krell Empire and their allies are gathering forces at the border of human space. 60,000 ships. They're demanding we dismantle our colonies in the outer systems and submit to galactic oversight. And the Admiral's response? First strike. Hit their staging areas before they can coordinate. Destroy their ability to threaten us. Sarah turned to Chen. This is insane. This is exactly what the Vorkai did. No, Chen said coldly. The Vorkai lost. We won't. We've analyzed their tactics, their mistakes. We'll do it better. You can't do it better. The endpoint is always the same. Extinction. The endpoint of surrender is also extinction. At least this way we go down fighting. Sarah looked around the room, saw too many nodding heads. Too many people ready to support this madness, Director, she said desperately. You can't authorize this. I may not have a choice. The Survival Front has majority support in the colonial governments. If the Earth Council doesn't act, they'll act independently. At least this way we can coordinate. Coordinate our own destruction. What choice do we have? Okafor's voice broke slightly. Tell me, Dr. Chen. Give me an alternative that doesn't end with humanity subjugated or extinct. Sarah opened her mouth, but no words came. Because she didn't have an answer. The logic of fear was airtight. The galaxy was threatening them. They had to respond. Any other choice looked like suicide. The vote happens in 6 hours, Okafor said. If you can think of anything, now is the time. Sarah left the chamber feeling hollow. She walked through the council station corridors, barely seeing where she was going. The keeper had said the answer was in human history, times when humanity chose cooperation over violence in the face of threat, but she couldn't think of any. Every historical example ended in war eventually. Cooperation was what you did in peacetime. When real danger came, you fought. Her communicator buzzed again. Unknown sender. Sarah burst into Director Okafor's office without knocking. The director looked up from her desk exhausted and 10 years older than she had been a month ago. I have information, Sarah said breathlessly. The Keeper contacted me. The alien fleets are defensive, not offensive. They're afraid we'll attack them first. If we strike, we start the war. If we don't, most of them will stand down. Okafor's expression didn't change. The Keeper could be lying. It could be manipulating us into lowering our guard. Why would it do that? Its entire purpose is to help Final Protocol species succeed, or to observe their failure. We don't know its true goals. Okafor stood and walked to the window. Admiral Chen has convinced 60% of the Security Council. The vote in 4 hours will authorize first strike. I can't stop it. Then we don't stop it through the Council. We go public. Tell people what I learned. Give them the choice. That will cause panic. Chaos. Good. Chaos is better than coordinated extinction. Sarah moved to the director's side. Please. We have to try. Okafor was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. Do it. I'll give you access to emergency broadcast channels. You'll have 30 minutes before the military shuts you down. Sarah ran to the communications center. 30 minutes. One chance. She activated every channel simultaneously, every screen on every human world. Her face appeared in millions of homes, offices, ships. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. A month ago, I discovered that humanity is marked by an ancient alien race's final protocol. I'm the one who started this crisis, and I'm here to tell you how we end it. She told them everything. The extinct species, the test, the pattern that led to destruction, and finally the Keeper's message about the defensive nature of the alien fleets. We're standing at the same crossroads as 3 other species. They all chose to strike first. They all believed strength was survival. They were all wrong. Because the real test isn't whether we can win a war, it's whether we can choose not to fight one. Admiral Chen's face appeared on a split screen, angry and determined. Dr. Chen is advocating surrender. While she talks, alien fleets prepare to attack. We must defend ourselves. They're defending themselves too, Sarah shot back. From us. From what they think we'll do. Because every final protocol species before us did exactly what you're proposing. Those species were weak. Those species were identical to us, same traits, same drives, same belief that they were different and special and strong enough to win. They all failed. Not because they were weak, but because they couldn't see past their own fear. Sarah pulled up historical footage. Human history has moments where we chose differently. After World War II, enemies became allies. After nuclear near misses, rivals negotiated instead of destroying each other. We've stood at the brink before and stepped back. We can do it again. Those were humans dealing with other humans, Chen argued. This is different. Why? Because they're aliens? The predecessors were alien too. They faced the same choice we're facing. And they chose trust over fear. It left them vulnerable for a generation, but it also let them transcend physical existence entirely. They risked everything on the belief that choosing growth over destruction was right. And it worked. Millions of people were watching now. Sarah could see the numbers climbing. Humanity was listening. In 4 hours, the Security Council votes on first strike, she continued. If that vote passes, we start a war that ends in our extinction. Not because we're weak, but because we're too strong to know when to stop fighting. The test isn't about power. It's about wisdom. About knowing when survival means letting go of the need to control everything. Admiral Chen's face was red. You're asking humanity to commit suicide. I'm asking humanity to take a leap of faith. To choose trust when everything in our history says to choose violence. Because that's the only choice the final protocol survivors haven't tried. She looked directly into the camera. Every human watching this has a voice. Contact your representatives. Tell them what you believe. The choice isn't just for the council. It's for all of us. We rise together or we fall together. The transmission cut. Military override. But Sarah had said what she needed to say. Now it was up to humanity. The next 4 hours were chaos. The communication networks crashed from the volume of messages. Representatives were flooded with calls, emails, direct petitions. Humanity was voting with their voices and the numbers were close. Too close. Sarah made her way to the Security Council chamber. The vote would happen there, regardless of public opinion. She pushed through protesters on both sides, people screaming for war and peace in equal measure. Inside, the council was gathering. Admiral Chen looked confident. Director Okafor looked ill. Sarah took her seat in the observer section and waited. The vote began. Representatives stated their positions one by one. Sarah counted silently. 12 for first strike, 8 against, 15 for, 12 against. The numbers climbed closer to the 51% majority needed. Then something unexpected happened. Representative Kim from Titan Colonies stood. She had been a strong supporter of the survival front. Everyone expected her vote for war. I vote no, she said quietly. The chamber erupted in confusion. Kim raised her hand for silence. Dr. Chen is right. I've been studying the predecessor files. The pattern is clear. Every final protocol species that chose aggression first died. Every single one. I won't be part of repeating that pattern. Other representatives shifted uneasily. The vote continued, but now uncertain. Sarah watched the count balance on a knife's edge. 24 for war, 23 against, 27 for. 26 against. Then the chamber doors opened. A young woman in a military uniform walked in. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison. Sarah recognized her from the news. Morrison had lost her entire family in a colonial raid by pirates years ago. She had every reason to support military action. "I'm here representing the Outer Colonies Coalition," Morrison announced. "We're withdrawing our support for First Strike." 5 representatives changed their votes to no. Admiral Chen stood. "You have no authority. We have the authority of 30 million colonists who just voted in emergency referendums. They don't want this war." Morrison's voice was steady. "My family died to violence, Admiral. I spent 10 years wanting revenge on anyone I thought was a threat. Dr. Chen's right. That path only leads to more death." The math had changed. With the 5 colonial representatives, the vote would fail. Barely. By 3 votes out of 51, Admiral Chen's face went through rage, denial, and finally cold acceptance. "This is a mistake. When the aliens attack, remember you chose this. And if they don't attack," Director Okafor said quietly, "we'll remember we chose to live." The vote completed. 26 for First Strike, 27 against. Humanity had chosen not to fire the first shot. Sarah felt tears on her face. They had done it. Barely. By the narrowest margin possible. But they had chosen differently. Then alarms started blaring. Sarah's heart stopped. Had the aliens attacked anyway? Had they been wrong? A technician shouted from the communications station. "Incoming transmission. It's the Krell Empire. They're requesting diplomatic contact." The massive view screen activated. A Krell commander appeared, their crystalline features unreadable but their posture suggesting uncertainty. "Human Council," the Krell said through translation software. "Our intelligence indicates you were preparing first strike against our forces, but you did not launch. We do not understand. Why?" Director Okafor stepped forward. "Because we're trying to be better than we were. Better than fear says we should be. Your species is marked Final Protocol. History says you will attack. History of other species, not ours. We're writing our own story now." The Krell was silent for a long moment. "This is unprecedented. We will withdraw our fleets, cautiously. We will observe your actions. If you truly mean peace, we will respond in kind." The transmission ended. The chamber stayed quiet for several seconds, processing what had just happened. Then someone started clapping. Others joined. Not celebration exactly, more like relief, like people who had been holding their breath and finally exhaled. Sarah left the chamber and made her way to a quiet observation deck. She looked out at Earth, wondering if the Keeper was watching, if it had seen humanity pass the test. Text appeared on the observation window, as if in answer to her thought. "Well done, Dr. Chen. Humanity has chosen differently. The outcome remains uncertain, but you have broken the pattern. That is all any species can do. Choose a new path and hope it leads somewhere better than the old one." "Did we pass?" Sarah asked the empty room. "You passed the first test, choosing peace in the face of fear. But there will be more tests. Smaller ones perhaps, but equally important. The choice must be remade every day. Every decision. That is the burden and gift of Final Protocol species. You must constantly choose what you will become. What happens now? Now you continue. You rebuild trust with the galaxy. You prove through action that your choice was genuine. And when you are ready, when you have truly learned to direct your survival drive toward growth instead of domination, you will receive the predecessor knowledge. The path to transcendence will open. How long will that take? The predecessors required 2,000 years after their moment of choice. Perhaps humanity will be faster. Perhaps slower.